Ready to go racing in fast, frenetic rallycross action. Racecraft Rallycross heads to the Atlanta Motorsports Park for what should be, Atlanta Motor Speedway rather, for what should be an interesting endeavor. We head south of the city and to this interesting facility with its long racing configuration. Delighted you can join us, Arjuna Kankipati, alongside of Justin Prince in what is a championship that is in now its back half of its season. We've seen 3 crazy races already, and JP, 3 more weeks left to go before our champions are crowned.
Yeah, it should be an intriguing one with the second half of the season because it gets pretty tricky from here, especially what we talked about with Atlanta, one of the newer circuits when it comes to the Rallycross layouts a couple weeks ago. Today could be a tricky one for many of these drivers based on what to keep an eye on for final practice and the amount of barrel rolls people have managed to get at a track that's very much filled with pavement.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks as well where 2 configurations. We use the longer one as we do in the world of Racecraft Rallycross across the board, and I kind of feel as though this version allows for a little bit of, well, better racing in general. Let's talk about the track before we dive into the points and how things lie, because just under a mile in length, 64% tarmac, 36% dirt, and an 8 to 9 second Joker Delta. A big shortcut as you work your way, instead of through turns 4 and 5, the donk slide over to driver's right, and with lots of speed, slide your way in through turn 6. JP, that Joker timing going to be crucial because there is lots of chances for danger on the merge.
Yeah, especially with the fact that in the practice, people have merged directly into each other's doors here. That's how tight that section's going to be. And if you look at that angle and wonder, why does it look so weird? Why does it look like a straight line? It's essentially a straight line when it comes to that. To be able to turn a hard right, come right out where there's the middle of the apex corner exit for turn 6. One of the few dirt sections here, essentially for this racetrack today. You better be up on the wheel because it's basically high speed, but also high likely contact.
Let's talk about how the points are built up in Racecraft Rallycross, powered by Next Level Racing. It all starts in qualifying, which is underway right now. 6 points for pole position, and that also then splits you up into your respective heat. Maximum points awarded for those at the front, who also then go directly into the main event. And we always talk about how consistency is needed in order to try and get to the top of the championship. Let's talk about how the points sit right now, because it's still quite close. 5 points between the top 2, 10 points between the top 3, and then realistically, 5 drivers still with a major chance, albeit Joshua Darnell not going to be in action today. Thomas Poulsen winning the first round gave him a platform to build off, and JP, Chris Pissock's been really building his momentum. Tobias Holman as well, Cody Cosgrove, all drivers just looking to try and stay out of trouble as they get into the main events.
Yeah, that's going to be the critical part, keeping it clean. It is worth noting that just prior to the intro, within seconds of the intro, in fact, Arjuna, they outlawed running 4 wide on the start. That may sound very straightforward, but let's put it this way. At Iowa, we had, 2-3 big ones off the launches because of 4 wide to the opening corner? They said if you do that, your race is done, so don't do that.
And indeed, that's the look at the championship standings, and of course those drivers that still have the focus at the front of their minds. The qualifying session works its way on through. At the top right now, it is Chris Pissock by 4 thousandths from Rene Sotens. Cody Cosgrove third, Alex Otero fourth, although Trevor Teal has just launched his way to the top of the qualifying standings, and he's going to be very, very happy with that. It's by more than 1/10 of a second as well. Don't think we're going to see anyone really be able to challenge that, with the exception of Chris, who has 1 more lap still left to go. There he is, working over the jump on the way back towards the start-finish line. See if the Run DJC machine can improve. A 46.314. Nope, it's a little bit slower for him. And JP, Trevor Teal sits on top.
Teal has shown some improvement as of late when it comes to the races. We've seen what happens when he can keep it clean a little bit last time at Iowa. I think the qualifying speed's not a surprise, though, because if I'm him, I'm hungry for a win. And better yet, hungry for track position. And just starting the 3rd row has been a hornet's nest so far. It's not a surprise to see him put in the prep to get the speed up to be in front of the carnage today.
16 drivers means that we will split the field up into 2 heats. 3 drivers advance directly from each of them. And if you are joining us for the very first time, let's take a quick look at our Racecraft race analysis as the qualifying session comes to a close. 5-lap heat, 5 laps LCQs, and then we double that for the feature. No track resets either. Track evolution plays its part, and in this fixed setup series RX2, a stepping stone for them as they begin their way on the Rallycross ladder. Remember, 2 heats, 3 drivers to advance from each. Let's run you down trackside and see how they'll line up as we get ready to go racing for the first time today. Trevor Thiel, Rene Sotens on the front row, Alex Otero, and then Greg Johnson behind them with Sim van Wereld and Ian Fisher lining up on row number 3. They are going to be 2x2 but fanned out, so if you get a good start from the back, you could find yourself challenging Owen Anderson, Casper Thielgaard, 7th and 8th positions at the very back of the pack. The great thing about being here at the long layout as well, JP, is that instead of starting back there on the dirt where there are certain grid spots that have slightly more grip than others, here everyone equalized on the tarmac as they get ready to go.
We've already seen some wild moments this season. I think today it's going to be more so about the driver control. If you want to get solid points here, keep an eye on it for this launch. It could get wild yet again, though, on the first one of the day.
And so as the drivers now just wait for the lights to continue building, the engines are revving, and here we go. RX2, back half of the season, underway, although Greg Johnson doesn't launch with the rest of his contenders. Thiel going to be challenged into the opening corner, long way around for Rene Sotens, but you can make it work. Gets bullied slightly by the Nitro Cross machine. They will cross the line to officially start the first timed attempt. Sotens almost runs his way off the jump, and a challenge from Otero into the opening corner, who slides forward to second.
Yeah, that exact thing of jumping off the jump has been a tough spot for some. People have cartwheeled onto the opposite end of the racetrack in the final practices, keeping an eye on. But there's that Joker talked about. Straight line, there is a little bit of a barrier, so to speak, if you call a cardboard barrier, to be able to prevent yourself from cutting across the racetrack completely. But it's still going to be in the minds of some, knowing you go from single file lane to likely side by side in the heart of the field like this one.
Owen Anderson sits in that Ford Fiesta, riding behind Sim van Wereld. We'll see on the left side of the screen the Joker lap usage will update at the end of the lap, and so now the top 2 lit up in gold, and again 8 to 9 seconds, that's the shortcut. And so if you are Alex Otero, you find yourself in a situation where the time's going to fluctuate, but you might need to push a little bit before you elect to take that little bit of a shortcut. Will anyone in this pack, though, decide to jink off to the right? Indeed they will, and off they go. Alex Otero has also decided to Joker. He comes out behind Rene Sotens. Top 3 now, looking very comfortable.
Yeah, at this point, that top 3, I think you can pretty much put them towards the front per se. It's going to be really intriguing, though, depending on when everyone else takes the Joker, how it's going to go, because that Joker delta is going to be fairly tight, and if anything, a few of these drivers are going to overlap pretty quickly. This is one of our longest laps so far of the season, by the way. Already 46 seconds a lap. This might be a longer one overall, as the Joker's now populated indeed. Was about to say, Otero with his getting the buffer. Sim van Wereld needs to now pick up the speed that you're keeping an eye on.
Only one driver yet to Joker, Casper Thielgaard, who, even if he's not going to be thinking about challenging for a top 3 position, the Joker might still let you get a slightly better grid position for an LCQ. He emerges in front of Greg Johnson and Ian Fisher, the only one of our Beatles here in this first heat. We'll get ready to cross the line, 2 laps to go, and now basically it's down to these top 3. Trevor Thiel will start on pole position if he can hold on to this win. Rene Sotens will be starting in 3rd. Alex Otero starting back in 5th. They're all fighting for grid position, but also for some points.
Yeah, points is something that in these types of races, it's kind of gone almost a bit to the wayside with some of the carnage so far, but it's good to have almost a calm race right now. I don't know if it's because of the size or the fact that it's more sweeping. It almost feels like an actual road course instead of a rally race with how they're playing it out.
And in this respective heat, we don't have any of the championship contenders necessarily, so, you know, they're all going to be fighting for those points and the feature spots in that second heat. Going to be an interesting storyline to keep an eye on as we take a look at the drivers crossing the line to take what will be the final lap of this race. Around 40 seconds for them still left to go. Jump on board with Alex Otero and just see that perspective, the different entry lines being run. And this is the one corner basically on iRacing that many people will agree that you do yoink the handbrake, lock the rear tires, and get the car spun around. Going to try potentially enclose, but only 2 more corners to go. Not going to get his chance, surely.
Yeah, Trevor Teal looks very dialed in with the more flowing circuit. It looks like Trevor Teal might be on the docket for a win at this pace.
It's Trevor Teal converting pole position to Heat 1 victory, maximum points, and now pole position come the main event. Still a ways to go, though, before we find out who else will join him. You can see the rest of the drivers coming across the line, some in style. There's a couple of flips as well. Did they end up breaking the timing beam? Not quite. So Casper Thielgaard will finish in front of Greg Johnson, but only by virtue of then putting his car on all four wheels by virtue of a roll. Oh, that's, well, crazy. And this is how they finish. Reminder, top three advance, and so Sim Van Wereld, Owen Anderson, Ian Fisher, Casper Thielgaard, and Greg Johnson have to fight through one of the LCQ spots available. Heat 2 will get ready to go, though, and it's where our championship contenders are all getting lined up. Chris Pisuk is going to be alongside Cody Crossgrove on the front row, and then Thomas Poulsen and Andrew Howell behind them. Vergaard Olsen, Leah Cole Fisher, and then Eric Dubois, Room Anderson, rounding out the 8 cars that will do battle. Same equation as in Heat number 1, JP. It will be 8 that enter, 3 that move forward.
And already a bit of discussion about keeping the momentum going for the last race. Keep it clean. Don't do anything too wild here if you want a good run. Pisik in particular, I'm curious how he plays this out now compared to the others.
Just waiting for Andrew Howell to get down onto the grid, and we'll go racing. Haven't seen too many chaos moments on the start in that first sequence. Maybe the words from race control being heeded too. Away we go, and it seems as though Chris Pisuk doesn't get the best of launches. He's going to get swarmed on the entry in towards the first of the right-handers that they'll sweep through. Now has to deal with the pressure inside. Thomas Poulsen went to the lead momentarily, barged out wide, Pisuk back to the point, and over the jump they are side by side, a couple of rows deep, but Cody Crossgrove leads us into turn number 1.
And that's where all trouble Pisuk hit the back of Crossgrove and spun himself out there. Just put himself hard on the brakes, and now, just don't like that, Pisik has gone from a calm start to chaotic as Crossgrove is having this race go the way he wants it to go, with it being basically a road course.
And so now Vergaard Olsen, Lee, and Thomas Poulsen both fighting back onto the dirt. You got to be careful on the transition there as well to make sure you don't under or over rotate the car, and then over the jump, watch the attitude as you land and try and land as squarely as possible. You'll see the left side of the screen will light on up with their Joker usages. Behind them, Cody Crossgrove going a little bit defensive as Cole Fisher tries to make a move. If I'm any of these cars now, I want to probably get to the Joker as soon as possible, especially if you're losing time. Cody Crossgrove looks the long way around. Where does he go? Joker this time by.
Yeah, not shocking. We already seen this the first couple laps of the first heat already. Most people, I think, are just treating this, and I know I keep saying like a road course. It is a road course every time, but I mean like just about full pavement. It really is less about how much you can drift, how much you can slide it through the dirt, how you can handle the motions through said dirt today. It's about how well are you at car control. And better yet, in the sections where you do use the characteristics of this car, can you drift it out just enough to be able to maintain speed without spinning it out? Here's what I talked about, though. Set it hard on the inside, door opened up. That looked fine, but Crossgrove had that momentum. Right here, though, Pisik, I don't think was expecting Crossgrove to be earlier on the brakes as he was. Just hits the back end, gets him looped.
And the small mistake, the big consequences. We're now going to cross on to the 4th lap of the race, so 2 to go this time by, and these 3 drivers have that Joker delta, that buffer that they need to those behind. Chris Pisuk has jokered and found himself trying to close, but he's looking like he'll have to fight through the LCQs to make it to the main event. And again, consistency wins championships.
And right now for Pisik, I think it's still panic time for him to have to go to the LCQs right now. I don't think he's reaching Crossgrove, but Thomas Poulsen is the one showing the consistency. For a team named No Control, they've shown a lot of car control when they've been able to break away from the pack. Poulsen right now looks well composed coming up to the white flag.
Andrew Howell's going to Joker. He'll slot in behind Chris Pisuk, so That means that they'll have a little bit of squabble as to who will get the best starting spot between them in the LCQ, but one more lap to go as Thomas Poulsen launches his way over the jump championship leader. All those trophies around him as well, has that experience that he brings over, and in VR, looks as calm, cool, collected as you could hope for. 1.5 seconds clear at the front.
Yeah, it's to the point where it almost looks like he's doing this one-handed in some of these corners. Yes, just to get the E-brake for the dirt sections, get that drift on, get that rotation he needs. But outside of that, he's got the feel of this car down to a T with this fixed setup. Just looks very strong on the Focus today.
And so 2 heats done. We'll have 6 drivers in the main event. And boy, if this is a preview of the LCQs, expect those to be even more physical. Thomas Poulsen is going to control himself in the air, land on all fours, and win heat number 2. Behind him, Vegard Olsen-Lear holds off Cody Cosgrove, but they do enough amidst all of the chaos and carnage to finish in front of Chris Pissock, Andrew Powell, and then Room Anderson, Eric Dubois, and Cole Fisher. Will be a while as well before we see those final drivers finish things up. I think, JP, there's going to be some desperate drivers in that LCQ, especially knowing there's some championship drivers wanting to make their way forward.
Yeah, I think right now for Pissock, he needs to find, well, a chance to take a breather. He already just sent an apology for the initial start, by the way. He felt he was that rough in that opening lap.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the race results and then get ready to go for one of 2 LCQs. They have been split up into a couple of races. Thomas Poulsen, Vegard Olsen-Lear, and Cody Cosgrove going to be watching on as the rest stress. They're already going, so there's the look at the starting grid. Not a long look at it, though, because engines build. Who's going to get a good launch down in towards the opening corner? We'll find out now as away they go. Remember, from this race, 3 will advance. So 5 fighting for 3, and all you've got to do is try not to crash. At the back of the pack, Casper Thielgaard in the Beetle has a bit of a slip-up, but an even bigger issue for Ovin Anderson, who drops to the back.
What was the challenge you just said? Just don't crash? No, impossible. It's absolutely impossible. You have to crash. It's tradition. No, seriously. At this point, this is exactly what they touched upon in the pre-race meetings. Just think smart. Don't destroy your car before you finish a lap.
That was a look at a driver that didn't seem to use the handbrake in through the donk slide, and so what that means is just really are just waiting for the car to hook up and turn before you can get onto the power. Remember, 4-wheel drive can help you, but at the end of the day, it kind of sends you off in a rocket ship in a straight line. Tim Van Wereld leads, Ian Fisher second, and then Greg Johnson third. Now, Ovin Anderson did also joker, so the only thing to really keep an eye on, JP, is the margin back to Casper Thielgaard. If it starts to shrink slightly in the closing couple of laps, he could be a threat. Otherwise, these drivers, again, don't crash. It sounds simple.
It's difficult, though, we've seen today, because if gap car, and in the case of now Thielgaard, if in Beetle, send it to the inside, am I right? Oh, they almost all cooked it, and now he's flipping them.
Add 1 to the flip counter as Greg Johnson goes up and over. And while Race Control will take a look at that post-race and add some post-race penalties, it's not like they can really do much in the here and now. It is going to effectively be Van Wereld, Fisher, and Thielgaard to move on forward, although Ian Fisher has done what we saw in the iRacing All-Stars a couple of years ago. End over end, flips his car, still lands on all fours.
It's still not over, though, but that car is going to be very lucky to finish at this rate. I mean, if I'm Greg Johnson, I'm even more furious at myself now and at potentially Thielgaard now, because no send and no flip over, Johnson probably takes the spot back. Instead, he's stuck on the sidelines.
Let's go ahead. I want to watch this replay from Ian Fisher's perspective, because he just uses too much of the sausage curbs, and wowee.
Yeah, that was full sausage curb used as a ramp there, and even with the suspension, no, just no. At Iowa in particular, remember, some drivers prefer to use half the curb as a rotation, maybe on the left side tires. 4 tires, you're basically saying, I want to go wee-wee into the air. I'm not sure if that was exactly what I thought it sounded like.
Got one more lap to go. Owen Anderson in the background's had a bit of a slip up. Now, what's happened with Ian Fisher as well, because he's going very slowly, but again, just nurse that car around. You have 6-7 seconds behind you. It's a battle of attrition. Survival instincts have to rise to the forefront here. A mile to go at the front for Sim Van Wereld.
Yeah, this is exactly what I think he probably would have wanted at this point. Well, having everyone else absolutely crash behind you is kind of just, I'll take it. I'm happy. But for a lot of the other drivers in particular, like Fisher, I think some of them are lucky. Others are just at that point where it's like, can we please not do this in the feature and flip over on the opening lap? I'd like to run more than 2 corners. It's
a shame as well, because I am of the opinion that the Atlanta Motor Speedway is home to one of the best iRacing rallycross tracks we have access to. This long version is a lot of fun, really requires a bit of skill. Sim Van Wereld crosses the line, winner in LCQ number 1, and it does seem as though Ian Fisher will be unable to make it to the end of the race, and Owen Anderson's beaten up Ford is going to make it through.
I think Fisher crashed into a barrier on the final lap. I can't believe it. Fisher only just had to make it half a lap to be able to finish the race. If correct me if I'm wrong here, without the damage, he couldn't do it.
I wonder if there was maybe a technical issue or something, but here we go. We'll see the driver coming through. In fact, while we quickly can, let's see if we can grab a replay momentarily. This is what happened. He blew his engine. Oh, heartbreaking. That
explains it.
It means Chris Pissock, Andrew Howell, Room Anderson, Eric Dubois, and Cole Fisher, who get ready to go for the next of our LCQs, will hope that they don't do the same thing. There's a look at the starting grid. JP, my word, that is not something we see very often.
Yeah, that was all down to the flip, and when you see that, it's more understandable why he didn't finish, but already stakes are getting higher and higher, and this grouping for the final of the LCQs is going to get pretty wild again, because you have 3 drivers looking to recover from bad runs, and then Chris Pissock.
And of course, Chris Pissock, that championship contender, is going to have to try and make sure no dramas. And again, we just wait for one more to hit the starting grid, and we'll get ready to go racing with 3 more spots in the main event up for grabs. It's a nervous wait for the drivers as the lights build and the engines rev. And we go racing for LCQ2. Great launch from the second row. Eric Dubois, though, backs out of it, and Chris Pissock around the outside takes the race lead. Now, that's not the optimum line from Room Anderson. Not going to add one to the flip counter. He stays on all 4 wheels, but as they come over the jump, a little bit of chaos and carnage. It's going to be Cole Fisher, though, that's not at the front of, in fact, he is at the front of the field. Where's Chris Pissock?
He spun himself off the jump. I am just baffled at this point. It's like, it's like a layup line. You're in the lead. You just have to take the jump straight. Most people are just struggling to hit the jump straight and are hitting it off the side, and you're not going to do that. You just can't go straight from here.
Here's the replay, and you can just see he was already turning JP before he was actually in the air.
Yeah, that's a good way to do that, but also he was on an angle. And essentially what you're doing on the angle on top of the turn is you're adding a ton of rotation, you're adding some spin rate essentially. It's almost like you're throwing a curveball with you as the car. With you as the ball instead of the car.
And this was very close to being a full flip, but they end up getting glued together. And it brings Anderson back down to terra firma. As back on the live pictures, we have seen a joker from Cole Fisher, have not seen it just yet from Eric Dubois, who stands in a very good spot to be able to cycle back to the front. And through all of this, championship contender Chris Pissock could still get up into the top 3.
Yeah, this has become pure madness for some drivers here, but I think for Chris, you just have to hope for some major mistakes, because it's pretty clear from some they're having a hard time around the circuit, and it's just the general finacity of the circuit. Antonison, even with the Joker, I don't know if I feel fully comfortable with how he's been looking yet. That's why
And, well, it's academic now, but Chris Pissock does still have his Joker to use. Unfortunately, he's got to still find about a second to get in front of Cole Fisher, who's running very, very smoothly at the front of the field as the only car inside of the transfer spots to have jokered. Eric Dubois, a bit too much over rotation there. Slowed his speed. Andrew Howell closes. One of the drivers will probably want to joker separate to the driver in front of them, JP, just so there's no synchronized mistakes on the joker entry.
Yeah, I don't know what else to really say outside of just keep it simple. I know that sounds simple, but just don't clatter the curbs. Don't overexert the car. Just drive it. You're taking the joker now. You're comfortable. Just don't light the couch on fire in case of some of these drivers and make it uncomfortable for you.
And of course, you always want to try and do something different to the driver in front of you with the joker. Last thing you want to do is be identical on your strategy. Andrew Howell takes advantage and now will lead, seeing the white flag. Chris Pissock is, I think, in a spot where he will get in front of Cole Fisher. It's going to be by a couple of seconds. He might not even have to worry too much because Eric Dubois is struggling a little bit as he comes across the line to start his final lap.
Yeah, I'm curious how that battle's going to play out for third, per se. But Pissock needs to be able to find a little bit of ground right now. I don't think he's going to grab it now with them already having to utilize some jokers right here. Pissock just doesn't have it. He needs to hope that Dubois gets too caught up maybe. Cole Fisher, though, lost a lot of time. So there's that, at least that bright side.
Well, it was always going to happen. Cole Fisher wasn't having that joker delta. Chris Pissock was going to cycle to the front. Andrew Howell slips and slides over the line. But at the line, Eric Dubois pips him. That's why you've got to be so careful with how you launch yourself into the air. It's not a transfer position loss. It's just grid position in the main event. Andrew Howell still advances.
Yeah, it's still a point. No, I don't think it's a point, actually. Let me correct myself. But it will say this. That sets a lot of high standards for the race coming up here in a couple minutes' time. And this gets right back to the point of you need to be composed. You need to be basically able to take the corner straight on. A lot of people didn't take them straight on, and they cost themselves.
The drivers get a brief warm-up session before we go racing. Don't go anywhere. The main event of RX2 coming up next. Ready to go for the main event in RX2. We've whittled it down to the 12 drivers that will fight for 10 laps. Arjuna Kankipati joined alongside by Justin Prince. JP, plenty of chaos to get here, and now with double the race length, track having evolved in terms of dirt usage, I think we're in for a very, very interesting build-up to RX1 taking center stage.
Yeah, this could be another interesting one. I know I keep saying interesting, but it has been intriguing because of the way the layout plays out around this racetrack. Atlanta Motor Speedway has been having some solid racing as a whole when it comes to this facility here today for this rally circuit. It's just about, can you get a good start to this race? And better yet, can you prevent mistakes in those turtles? They seem to be snapping pretty quickly.
Let's take a look at the starting grid as we get ready to go. Trevor Teal, fastest in qualifying. quickest in heat number 1 and will lead us at the front of the field. He'll have, though, the championship leader for company, putting the pressure on. Thomas Poulsen through the opening corner with Rene Sotens, Vergaard Olsen, Leah, Alex Otero, and then Cody Crosgrove, the drivers that advanced directly from their heat. Tim Van Wereld, Eric Dubois, Casper Thielgaard, Andrew Howell, Owen Anderson, and Chris Pissuk round out the drivers in the field. Those 6 having to come through the LCQs. And of course, Chris Pissuk at the very back of the main event. 5 points behind Thomas Poulsen coming into tonight. He will have dropped slightly behind by virtue of the heat points, but JP, all he can do now is focus on making his way forward to the front.
And already just about the whole field ready to go here. Watch for the initial start. Remember, don't go 5 wide. Simple as that.
Song of Rallycross roars once more. Trevor Thiel with a poor start. Thomas Poulsen covers him off, and behind the chaos, being sent off was Vergaard Olsen, Leah. Trevor Thiel's is going to hold on to second through all of that as Rene Sotens, Alex Otero. Third and fourth, Otero getting turned in the air, and I don't know how that's not going to cause more drama. Coming across the track, Van Wereld, Dubois, maybe a couple more tangled up. Heavens above, JP. This is madness.
Cody Crosgrove still trying to use a bit of a half-pipe move to get going as well. Absolute pandemonium for many of your front runners. But all I can say to what happened to the back half of the field, I think, Arjuna, is 4 wide was talked about. They went 4 wide, and some of the drivers like the 18 are paying severe prices.
It was already bashed in at the front, and now will drop down to the very tail end of the field all as Thomas Poulsen cycles back around to end the opening lap. And again, left side of the screen, you'll see that gold icon light up after the Joker. Now he hooks the inside curb through the opening corner, costs himself 3-4 seconds, but comes back under control. Championship leaders 1 and 2 at the front of the field, and mistakes being made.
You know the wild thing in all this? Chris, with every single possible mistake he's made throughout the day today, is in the running up front. Look at that Joker run, Thiel to the lead.
And it's so important to carry that speed and not be scared and balked by the cars making their way through the regular lap. So change on the Joker merge. Behind Chris Pissuk goes very, very deep as well. Casper Thielgaard behind him in the VW Beetle. Once again, the left side will update with the Joker usages, and you should expect to see the entirety of the top 7, I would assume, having used their Joker. Eric Dubois finds himself, I think, as the first driver not to have Joken, in fact. No, he has. There we go. I was correct the first time around.
And he's even struggling in the midst. The quick left-right. It can catch you off guard with how tight it is for the rally circuit. But up front, I'm going to be keeping an eye on how Poulsen plays this. He's got damage to the race car. That was off one of the jumps. He hit the ground so hard, he smacked the left rear tire. He seems to be well composed for now and able to keep up on pace. But eventually, damage accumulates.
Let's take a look at that race start and sequence through a couple of different things. So first, it was into the opening corner. Trevor Thiel gets pinched by Rene Sotens, who jumps on the curb, and then Vergaard Olsen Leah gets the worst of it. But really, it took him out of all of this madness over the jump. They've tried to go 3 wide, and a couple of cars are already turned into the wall, and as they rebound onto the track, it just continues from there. Who didn't get tangled up?
I'm not quite sure. All I can say is Crosgrove did his best efforts to keep going, because you see him flip over here. He's stuck on the railing. Essentially, he does what you need to do on a skateboard. Grind across the railing to turn around. He still finishes with the DNF regardless, but it was a good effort to gain 1 spot over Sotens.
I'm sure that Travis Pastrana might appreciate that. The Nitro Cross machine of Trevor Thiel is leading as Thomas Poulsen. That one mistake cost him the 4 seconds that would have seen him hold, let's be honest, a very, very comfortable margin at the front of the field. This is looking off the back of Trevor Thiel as he throws it through the donk slide. Corner so named on the platform iRacing, as you see your race leader, the look of focus on his face.
Laser focused is how you can describe that. No major pressure behind. He's only got Thomas Poulsen to think about at most right now. For the most part, he hasn't had track position for these races. He changed the script today, and guess what? It's proven that if he gets some clean space, he can run. That Beetle is still running well with the heart of the field, though.
It's nice to see a bit of a mix-up. We have a Beetle, we have a Ford Fiesta, Traditionally, we talk about how when the track continues to evolve and wear in, the longer wheelbase on the Subarus does tend to give it a bit more grip and purchase, but if you're up in the air, all four wheels bouncing over one of those sausage curbs, doesn't matter what the wheelbase of the car is. Eric Dubois drops down behind Andrew Howell. Howell is still yet to joker, although 8 to 9 seconds the delta. He's not really even threatening to get back up to 7th. We're halfway through this race. We'll come towards 4 to go this time by. And Thomas Poulsen putting the pressure onto Trevor Thiel. I think the most important thing, though, JP, is that Chris Pisuk has maybe saved his championship hopes from the back of the field at the start of this main event up to 3rd.
Still lost a couple points for the Heat in particular, but it's better than not being in the feature yet at all. But I think a top 3 will be something he absolutely will be happy about, and with how disastrous the start of this day was and how it nearly was disastrous and even on his LCQ. He might have a chance even for the lead if Poulsen can find any way to get alongside Thiel and opens the door. Here's that point scale.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to make up that point scale. Remember, it starts in qualifying, goes through the heats, goes to the feature as well. It's all just building up and accumulating, and definitely Poulsen going to be building up the advantage. What's it going to be heading off to the final 2 rounds of the championship? An interesting final 2 rounds as well, because Brands Hatch next week, JP, it has the heaviest braking zone of any RX track. We come from almost upwards of 200 kph down into first gear through a long, tight right-hand corner. We don't really have a heavy braking zone in the same way here today.
Well, remember, we've seen even light braking zones have kind of spins today for some of the drivers with contact, so I think you'll have to see who licks the stamp and sends it, and how many people knock over the mailbox while trying to get it in their car to fit into the mail slot.
We've only got the 2 laps to go. Thomas Poulsen revs that engine just to get the front end of the car sitting back up slightly. Can adjust the attitude of the car in the air with your brake and throttle pedal, something that's quite fun to do in the pro trucks as well, which are even bigger, even more lumbering, and therefore you can carry a little bit more of that momentum through. Looking forward to Racecraft's Pro 2 coverage to come in the future as well, here live on RaceSpotTV. 1 lap to go, though. I think Trevor Thiel's comfortable. Thomas Poulsen's going to have to throw a desperation move, and I don't know if he's going to be close enough.
Yeah, right now I think if anything, he's just pacing himself. Especially since, first of all, you don't wreck the boss man, because you don't want the boss man to be mad at you. But second here, he doesn't really need to go unless Pisuk closes up a ton here. He is slowly closing, but not enough for me to say, okay, time to pass. Otherwise, we're in trouble. Maybe not. Pisuk just found a rocket all of a sudden.
We're on the final lap of the race, 1 mile left to go, and again, just Andrew Howell left yet to joker. That's a bit of contact between Thiel and Poulsen. It's going to compromise Thiel, make him a little bit tighter to the wall, and look at the speed that Thomas Poulsen's trying to bring. He goes into the grass, he dips his wheels, he'll give it a good send. Last lap contact, and with Trevor Thiel spinning out the rear tires, they'll run doors through the final corner. Thomas Poulsen will come to the line and grab the victory. There'll be frustration on the face of Trevor Thiel, but Chris Pisuk goes from the back to 2nd. Championship stakes and championship drama.
Already words being exchanged. Don't blame Thomas Poulsen. He's seen the opening. He poked it in. But what a finish.
And we've still got RX1 left to go. We know Atlanta can be great, but as much as we've seen a little bit of chaos and carnage, that final lap drama going to be talked about for a while. Let's go ahead, and as I'm sure the celebrations continue for some, JP, let's go watch a replay.
Yeah, I'm curious how this looks once again. Poulsen just showed the nose to the inside, but just got the very razor's edge. But Pisuk just watches the popcorn. This is exactly what I talked about. Thiel tried to get him back there on the door. In response, held him up. Pisuk takes 2nd, and Thiel goes from 1st to 3rd in 1 corner.
Let's take one more look, and then we'll grab a look at the race results and capture some post-race emotion from the drivers. Was Thomas Poulsen going to make the corner without the contact? I think that's going to be the question that Race Control ends up having to answer. And as JP was alluding to, Trevor Thiel will be parked maybe not of the actual decision, but at least part of the process behind the scenes for Race Control. It's Thomas Poulsen, championship leader, on top at least on the timesheet, and Chris Pissock with a monster drive from the back of the main event up to second and minimizing the championship loss. Trevor Thiel third, Alex Otero fourth, and then Andrew Howell, Vergaard Olsen, Leah, Casper Thielgaard, Owen Anderson, and then Sim Van World, Eric Dubois, your top 10. Two drivers then not seeing the end. Cody Crosgrove got caught up, unfortunately, on the wall in the early stages. He was able to get dislodged, finishes 8 laps down. Rene Soten's 10 laps down for him. Well, I think the drivers are probably trying to take a breather right now, relax just a little bit. Let's see if we can go and catch up with our race winner. Thomas Poulsen is standing by. Thomas, talk to us about how you're feeling right now. Contact through the final couple of corners.
Not good. Not good. It's never fun to win this kind of way. I think that I will get a penalty for this. It wasn't intentional, but it happened, and I will take the full responsibility for it, of course.
I like the accountability. Ultimately, it was just hard racing, though. There was definitely no intent there. Tell me a little bit about how that race played out and the mistake that you made in the opening corner that cost you about 4 seconds.
Yeah, I had too much nerves on before the final, and when it went on and I got the good start that I'm actually quite good at doing after, by the time, I just lost it. I thought to drive safe and so on, and then all of a sudden I got myself in a place where that I hit that little curb and off I went. So it was all recovering from there. That I should win it was not in the plan. I actually was settling for second, but all of a sudden I had the opportunity to grab the win. So went a little hot-headed.
Well, I can't blame you. The win was up for grabs. Congratulations on at least continuing the championship momentum, and we'll see you in a week's time as we roll on over to Brands Hatch.
Thank you.
Always great to be able to catch up with our drivers, and I do think we'll have the chance to catch up as well with probably a little bit of a heated Trevor Thiel. Joins us now. Trevor, Thomas was just talking to us. He takes full responsibility for the incident. What's your side of it?
Yeah, it just kind of sucks to, lead most of the race and get dumped like that. But, man, it's the same people every round, so what do you expect? But, yeah, we had a good run out there. It was fun.
Fun track as well, right? And are you of the opinion, and I think you must be, because Racecraft always uses long and not short layouts. The long layouts are better than short?
Oh, 100%. Can't beat it.
Is there any short layout that's good? I mean, come on, be honest.
Yeah, there is.
Daytona.
Short. Hell short is better than hell long.
That's true. Isn't Daytona short better than Daytona long, or am I getting confused?
I like Daytona long.
Okay, they're both pretty good at the end of the day. Trevor,
Yes.
Unfortunately, no win, but the speed was there. How have you been getting faster with the help behind the scenes from the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team?
Oh, I mean, just grinding laps with Josh Edmondson, Connor Priest, and Jacob Rafos. I mean, they're some of the best in the business. So being able to throw laps with them is just unbeatable. Like, it's the best experience you can get.
Next week, we're off to Brands Hatch. What are you expecting from that?
I don't know. Should be pretty wild as always. So looking forward to it. I'll be there for sure.
We'll see Trevor Thiel in a week's time. Congratulations on what was a great race. Always great to be able to catch up with them as well. But, JP, I mentioned how heavy the braking zone is into turn number 1 at Brands Hatch and the IRX layout that we have. Brands Hatch has got a storied history of rallycross racing. Not the version that we have on iRacing, though. It's still an interesting layout. It's got plenty of different sort of sweeps. It's a track, though, that we tend to see plenty of chaos at.
Yeah, you mentioned the braking zone already with the next course on hand. I think that's going to be another carnage point, potentially, for that one. But better yet, you have to be able to focus up from a race like this today. In that racetrack, I think it's going to be intensely challenging, to say the least. Just look at the elevation change right now. Just look at that. And think to yourself, how am I going to make my way up and or down this circuit without flipping my car over? You're basically talking about a very difficult time for some of these drivers for the next time out.
And that is, of course, that heavy braking zone that we're looking at right now. The opening corner, so inviting, but so easy to make a critical mistake. That's all left to come, of course. Don't forget, after that, the season finale will bring us into wine country at Sonoma, where we'll get ready to pop the sparkling wine and celebrate another season champion. But here in RX2, the championship continues to heat on up. Championship stakes were raised today as well. 2 rounds to go. RX2 is going to be wild. Don't go anywhere on RaceSpotTV though. We've still got RX1 to go as the best drivers in iRacing Rallycross take center stage. We've seen carnage already, and now with more drivers ready to go in Racecraft RX1 powered by Next Level Racing, who will reign supreme? Who can dethrone and stop Jacob Rafos? Welcome on, delighted to have you here back on RaceSpotTV. Arjuna Kankipati joined alongside as ever by Justin Prince. And JP, I think we're still kind of trying to wrap our heads around what we've seen take place in terms of championship swings in the RX2 category. When it comes over here to RX1, it's a little bit more simple, a little bit more basic. We've had 2 dominant forces building their lead at the front, Jacob Rafos and Evan McFarlane. No Jacob Rafos seemingly in action here today. Someone else will come out and reign supreme.
That's going to take a little bit of a swing, to say the very least, for the point standings here. But that might open up the door significantly in turn for McFarlane. The youngster that showed a lot of pace in these races. He's been battling back and forth long run with Rafos. But now it becomes then the question for at least today, does anybody else have the pace to jump up another step? Does Jox Fox step up a step? Does anyone else from the team side step up to keep up with the pace potentially today for McFarlane and co?
It's good to see Josh Fox back in action after missing in action last time out. Here's a look at the track. If you're just joining us, we've seen a little bit of chaos and carnage about every single corner, effectively, of this facility at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's just under a mile in length, 64% tarmac, and that Joker gain, if executed well, can be anywhere from about 8, 9, maybe 10 seconds, depending on how much traffic you have in front of you. And JP, what we have seen as well is the amount of speed that you take from that Joker exit down into turn number 7 can stand you in very good stead.
We've already seen it build up a straight amount of speed because, well, It's near straight line coming from the Joker straight into the racetrack, essentially, and into speed differential in the rotation, 20 miles an hour today? So right now, that is why I think a lot of people are taking it early, so they don't end up losing the spot because they're busy battling, and then as a result, they end up getting passed to the final laps by someone who has already not used the Joker and has placed them right back in the mix. This should be an interesting one, yet again.
We'll take a look at the Racecraft race analysis, and a reminder, the 5-lap heats and LCQs double in length when we get to the main event for the feature, but these drivers do get slightly lower incident count to play with in terms of a buffer. It's 6 incident points rather than 8, and then an open setup that they can dial in and really tweak to get the most from the car. We often talk about how, drivers from the World Championship era of Rallycross racing on iRacing don't have to do much to get their setups dialed in for what they're racing in here today, and often that seems to be the case. Josh Fox has broken out the setup and gone 4/10 quicker than anyone else in qualifying.
Well, McFarlane hasn't set the qualifying time for himself yet. He was pretty close on the board. Rafos did take part in final practice and is amongst the top 5 though. So those drivers look very dialed in, Fox and Rafos today. Going to be curious, where does McFarlane put himself? How about top 5 right in front of Rafos today?
Bit of a late joiner then for Jacob Rafos to jump into the action, but great to see him because it means that we have that championship fight with the man we're watching on screen right now through the donk slide. Very, very tidy. Look how close to the wall that he gets as well. This, his second of 3 timed attempt in the KES Industries car. Dances out wide to the final corner, but as he gets onto the brakes, watch the front end sit into the ground as the weight transfer just dials in through the suspension. He's got a bit of damage on that car. Hopefully it's not invalidated the qualifying lap, and that was very, very aggressive over the jump to boot too. A 44.098, his previous best. He sets a 44.058 and goes to 4th, but he's still almost half a second off of Josh Fox.
Yeah, still looking very good for the track position for the heat side, and remember, that's the main focus. Get a spot for the heat. Yes, the points for qualifying are great. They're absolutely great. But at the same time, just start towards the front for your heat. That's got to be the focus. We've seen people starting in the back have not had a fun time.
Qualifying draws to a close as Evan McFarlane runs out of time to get another lap onto the board. Because we have 18 cars, going to have 3 heats here in RX1. Should be quite interesting as to how they'll all play out. Only 2 drivers to advance, and then of course we'll head into the LCQs. The lineup for the first heat of the night though, we'll see Josh Fox in the Williams Esports car alongside Evan McFarlane, Kieran Leiflander, and then Santeri Heiskin and share row 2 with Rene Wegner and Russell Peterson behind them on the 3rd row of the formation. Brendan Raymond lines up at the back by himself. 7 cars, 2 spots up for grabs, and surely McFarlane and Fox the favorites to advance.
I'm pretty certain they're the favorites to advance here amongst the top 2 here. That leads to the question, can anybody capitalize on any potential mistakes? Because you could say, yeah, they look very much the favorites here, but then all of a sudden, boom, you end up having chaos, and all of a sudden it becomes wide, wide open.
We're just waiting for one driver, Josh Fox, to take to the grid, I do believe, and while we do so, there's a look at some of the drivers sharing their views with us. Sean Winkler has his for sale sign as up as ever. Josh Edmondson in VR isn't racing in this heat, so he's getting ready to go. And then Russell Peterson, we see his perspective on the grid and just standing by for Pennsylvania's own to drop and to go. He's there. The engines will start to build as the lights begin to come up. It's ready to go for RX1 action at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. The back half of the season is underway, and Josh Fox gets a pretty tame launch, all things considered. Contact behind him as Leiflander made a bit of a shove there, and McFarlane gets tipped over. Championship contender at the very back of the pack.
What was Leiflander doing is the first thought. He just straight up tried to go for a gap that wasn't really there across Heskin, and that just caused absolute bedlam. What did I say? Chaos opens the door for anybody.
And, well, I'm quite surprised that Josh Fox didn't Joker first time by. He was so close to the wall on the entry to the donk slide. McFarlane realizes he needs track position. He goes Joker first time of asking. another driver to the Joker and is going to come out with plenty of speed and momentum. Rene Wegner going to then be fighting down in towards the final couple of corners, but into line and onto the brakes.
Oh, and that machine in the 20 does not look comfortable. That car looks evil with how it's been handling now. It doesn't look like Kieran's driving a straight line anywhere.
It was very nose high for a couple of those cars as they flew through the air, but lap one's in the books. And remember, gold on the left side, the crowns indicate a driver has taken their Joker lap, an 8 to 9 second shortcut. There's going to be at least one driver that goes this time by. Kieran Leithlander in the number 20 decides, you know what, I've got to get out of Dodge. We'll see if that works out for him as we go back to the start of the race, JP. And on the outside, Evan McFarlane couldn't do much here.
Yeah, already Lander getting loose, and then all of a sudden, bam, hip check. How about a grip roll to add to your favor? But McFarlane's done a solid job on the recovery so far. I'll give him that credit. He's driving along, just chooses the line high side, keeps as far to the outside as he can early, and then bam, you can't do anything when everyone just decides to use you as brake stop.
Remember, top 2 move forward. It's not 3 like we saw with RX2 and just the 2 heats that we had there. Still waiting for Josh Fox to close a little bit more to the back of of Evan McFarlane, at which point he would surely start thinking about his trip down to the Joker. Behind him, no one else really in range to try and jump in front. And so if you are McFarlane, all you're really thinking about here is, let me close up to the race leader. 2 laps to go as he gets very, very nose high. Still a chance, like you say, JP, but I think that chance starting to get smaller and smaller.
I don't think it's on the cards for the win. It's going to be, for me at least...
I'm talking second, just to be clear.
Yes, I know that part. But it's more so, I think Flanders now gotten a bit comfortable. McFarlane, I think, is better raw pace. He's quicker in the sections where there's low speed, in particular with the setup right now. It's just, it's hard to recover when you go upside down and lose 3 seconds. He gained at least a second and a half. Give him that.
Clearly, Subaru makes a pretty tough car if it can go through all of that and still drive relatively straight. Now, that was out wide in through the penultimate corner. Doesn't cost him too much time, but you can tell he's pushing and very much testing the limits of that car. Santeri Heiskanen's closed up to the back of Rene Wegner, and I do think there is a small possibility that Josh Fox will Joker this time. So will Heiskanen's 57, and potentially that could be a bit of a merge. Now, Leiflander's made a mistake, and McFarlane's going to take the point as a result of that. That's very, very important for McFarlane to be able to move forward. There goes Fox. Wegner's, of course, on the regular lap. There goes Heiskanen. Barges into the side of Leiflander on the Joker merge.
Oh, and another one collected by the 20 machine. I mentioned the possibility. McFarlane's advancing with Leiflander's terrible run.
Josh Fox wins Heat 1 and in some style by 5+ seconds. Plenty of chaos behind. And I'm very, very curious what happened there between McFarlane and Kieran Leiflander that saw them swap around. Here's a look at the replay.
Yeah, just hit too much of the curbing, and we've seen that before. And then at that point, it's like, all right, just keep it going. And obviously, that's a corner cut penalty, so he has to serve the time. That cost him.
Big, big drama, and we've still got 2 more heats left to go. Quick rundown to the results, and then we'll grab a look at the starting lineup for heat number 2. Remember, Fox and McFarlane moving forward, the rest going through the mad scramble of a last chance qualifier. Here's the grid for the second heat of the night. Joni Palaneva, Josh Edmondson will start on the front row with Sean Winkler and Robbie Kirtley lined up behind them. It's Zach Blanche and then Kim-Andre Bjorklund, 5th and 6th positions, and at the very back of the field. No 7th car for these drivers, remember, so 6 enter, 2 advance. Hopefully, JP, we can have a little bit more of a clean run down into the opening corner.
They just warned the driver to yet again keep it clean, don't make contact before that launch. Here we go.
It's a good jump, but pretty equal across the board. Although, does Kim-Andre Bjorklund try and set up the outside? That's what he was wanting to do. Couldn't turn in, though, to Robbie Kirtley. They're side by side for the lead momentarily. Josh Edmondson's going to take the point in the Nitro Circus sim racing machine. Kirtley almost bounces off for the jump on landing, but single file across the line. 6 cars flying to turn 1.
Much better. A much better start with the heads up through the race control. But I'm curious who takes that Joker. Looks like Edmondson takes the hard right quickly. He looks very good so far. Already clean air and already a country mile to be able to conquer.
He wants these drivers to trip over one another, and if he thinks that he can build up half a second on this lap alone, then he will instantly feel comfortable for the 4 laps that remain. So now one spot effectively up for grabs between these drivers. Palineva, Winkler, Blanche, Bjorklund and Robbie Kirtley, and that's where you need to try and think, how do I do a Joker strategy that gives me some separation? Bjorklund drops to the back, he went sideways through the final corner, compromised him on the entry to the jump, and now drops to the back of the field.
So far, it just seems like yet again, a lot of these drivers made it clear in the open side at least, they feel like if there's no major battles, may as well go. This is a massive mistake though, if you look at the run for Winkler. He was very much so amongst those who found unique ways to crash in final practice and the final testing runs, I noticed. But he's also somebody right now that seems, well, like he should have took the Joker in hindsight.
We did see Zach Blanche take the Joker. He ended up 3 seconds back from your race leader in the Nitro Circus Machine. Looks very, very calm, does that car, especially settled over the anti-cut curves that we've seen a couple of drivers get high-sided on. It's a positive sign. Kim-Andre Bjorklund also ended up taking his Joker. I think if you're Joni Palineva, you go this lap, and indeed he does. We're not even halfway through, and he slides his way on forward to second and into a transfer spot. 8/10 off of your leader.
Joni's been doing this all season, though, because when he's got track position, I know I've harped on this a lot, but to be able to utilize the speed, you need some space to work. Palineva's had the space to work, but Edmondson, he's a world championship competitor in multiple different types of dirt vehicles when it comes to this style of racing. Whether it's pro trucks, whether it's rally, not a shock to see him do well up here, and he's going hard, dig in deep with the VR headset.
Looking forward as well to increased coverage of all dirt racing things on RaceSpotTV. I mentioned slightly earlier that Racecraft's Pro 2 Championship on the docket for this coming summer once the Racecraft Rallycross season comes to an end. Also might have some short course action coming to you this coming Wednesday that Josh Edmondson, Jacob Verfoss will all be racing in. Robbie Kirtley, Jokers, emerges in front of Kim-Andre Bjorklund, but still a good 2.5 seconds off of the back of Zach Blanche. This effectively a fight for grid position in the LCQ. Cross under from Kirtley as Bjorklund slides his way through the final corner. Final lap of the race, a drag race into turn number 1.
Putting on some solid racing here. Somebody needs to back up, though. They can't go side by side. Or you can just punt them off and help them miss the turtles. If anything, that helped the 88, that hurt him.
He's now got to slow down. That will be the real pain and the real punishment. Remember, Race Control will look at all of this post-race, and it does seem as though they are going to be busy, not necessarily what they would have wanted. Josh Edmondson, though, held honest by Joni Palineva at the front of the field, but that early Joker set him up well. He slides his way out of the final corner to victory in heat number 2. Palineva advances as well, and 2 very strong drivers now watch on to see who will join them in the main event.
Yeah, very solid. Bad news for Bjorklund, though. Things have come very important. The reason he's dead last, he is stuck in a chain link fence.
So that might end up meaning that we are held for a couple of moments as he finally gets his run to the line and finishes in style. At least, don't forget, he's still got an LCQ to go through. Day's not done for him just yet. And the smoke, well, instantly disappears, and we get ready to go racing. Confirmation of the results from the second heat of the night, but while Edmondson and Palineva advance, the rest have to go through the mad scramble of the LCQ. Here's how Heat 3 is looking to line up. And Jukka Pakala in the no-control machine has Jacob Verfoss, the championship leader, defending champ, and general destroyer of all in Racecraft Rallycross alongside. Not a great qualifying for him by any means. And then Matthew Lindy, Istvan Titz, and then Stead Miller and Lindsay Hobbs. The rest of the grid, they are ready to rumble. The engines have revved, and they are being fired off down into the opening corner. Verfoss will go the long way around. He'll have confidence on Jukka Pakala as well. The fight back will come from No Control's machine, but Jacob Verfoss back on top.
Nicely done, to say the least, once again from Verfoss. There's a reason he's looked stellar every single race. It's going to be difficult to be able to get a pass on him. We'll say this, amongst those already looking to shuffle forward here, keep an eye on the Joker use. It looks like Pakala says, I'm going to go different here, while everyone else go split decision, 50-50.
It looked like for a moment that Jukka Pakala was setting himself up in the middle of the track on the entry into the Joker section. He could either jink to the right with a bit more speed, or he wouldn't compromise himself too much through the donk slide. There was only ever one thought in the mind of Jacob Raffoss. He was so far over to the left, it would have been much slower for him to take the regular lap. It was only about the Joker for him. Let's ride on board, and this is the line that you'll see from the drivers as they try and maximize this donk slide section. Try and cut a little bit of the curb on the inside. Look how close they get to the inside wall, not once but twice, before then the long left-hander. Well, I still don't understand how controlled and composed they can be.
Well, it's a good balance of being able to have two hands on the wheel for the areas where you need it, but also having that handbrake right where you need to go. Handbrake time right here. Get the drift, just a touch bit, get back on the two hands on the wheel, straight in and out for the jump. That was precise movement right there. But out of those who have already taken the jumper, I was about to say I'm curious about those Fiestas in particular here, because Lindsey Hobbs looks solid. Stead Miller, we've shown a little bit of speed for in this Fiesta so far this season. Those teammates, or at least those car mates, seem in sync.
Man, I'm again loving that we do actually get the bit of a mix-up in the manufacturers. The iRacing Rallycross World Championship became a bit of a Subaru fest, and as much as I love a good Subaru, I like seeing the differences as well. Now, this is where they're costing each other time, and Jukka Pakala is closing in on them and may decide that next lap he does not want to risk being caught behind them. Lindsey Hobbs on the inside, Stead Miller getting caught out. And I just like the way that Lindsey Hobbs just placing his car everywhere that Stead Miller wants to be.
Yeah, just lined up line to line. They are both with Excalibur Esports, believe in this grouping here. So the thing is, I don't think they're advancing, though, even if they hold here. It's going to be only one of them, if that's the case. In fact, I should correct myself. It's going to be none of them.
Yeah, I think it's
Matthew
really...
Lindy already take the Joker.
It's really about whether Jukka Pakala gets in front of Matthew Lindy or not, and 7 seconds, I think he should have enough speed, but JP saved that Joker of the final lap of the race. You see Jacob Raffoss coming through the final corner, big picture to start the final lap, small picture, Jukka Pakala ready to take the Joker next time by.
It's going to be racer thin here. He is quickly gaining. He's gained about a second this lap already. That's going to be helpful.
Jacob Raffoss clear at the front, and after a relatively disappointing qualifying by his standards, let's not forget that Evan McFarlane may have grabbed a couple of points just to add to the championship haul. Doesn't look as though Raffoss is going to be challenged by Jukka Pakala, but as Pakala exits the Joker, he's well clear of Matthew Lindy, and so, with our third heat about to be in the books, Jacob Raffoss, Jukka Pakala join the rest of the drivers already locked into the feature. The rest of the drivers know they've still got some work to do. And with Raffoss winning in heat number 3, a championship story is going to get even more interesting with McFarlane and Raffoss in that main event. And I don't know why, JP, but they like to wreck their race cars when they finish a race.
Yeah, if you told that to your rear-world team owners, they tell you, would you like to pay for the new car? But it's sim racing. People like to do crazy things like launch their cars to the sky at Dega. On the side note, Matthew Lindy apparently had a slowdown that never went away, he just said, in the sim.
That's an interesting one. Quick look at the race results, and then, of course, get ready to go for what will be 2 LCQs. Spots in the main event on the line. It's a 3-second odd margin at the front for Jacob Raffoss. That early confidence that he had to send it around the outside very much played in his favor. But here's how they'll line up for LCQ1. Kieran Leiflander and then Matthew Lindy on the front row with Zach Blanche and Rennie Wegner on row 2. Esteban Titz and then Kim-Andre Bjorklund at the very back. And while 6 will enter, 3 spots in the main event up for grabs. I'm going to be very, very curious to see, JP, who's feeling the most hungry as we get ready to go.
Well, here's feeling the most hungry. I think right now, Leiflander is hungry to lift everybody's land to the sky.
Remember, it gets more physical, deeper we go into these events. Kieran Leiflander chops off the nose as he did in his heat, this time with a bit more success. He opens up the corner, will lead us on the run towards the line. Matthew Lindy then is tucked in behind him. Zach Blanche, Kim-Andre Bjorklund, Esteban Titz, and then Rennie Wegner. 6 cars in towards turn number 1. Who jokers first time by?
Yeah, so far, oh, that was a terrible time. Oh, that checked things up badly. That was a terrible run for Zach Blench, and it just bottled everybody up.
Your race leaders electing not to joker, but Bjorklund, Wegner, they do go. Leiflander and Lindy electing instead to run wheel to wheel, and all as Istvan Tits comes off of the joker merge. He has taken the joker just to confirm, but he won't be a factor. These drivers now have got to get their heads down. They may end up taking the joker this next time by.
I think you have to respond with the joker because, well, first of all, Blanche kind of lost everybody behind him time, so the back half of the field throw that out of the equation. If you're front half of the field, take advantage. Matthew Lind needs to take advantage and just get out of the carnage here that's about to build. Not surprised, there it is, to get around the 20.
Quite surprised that Kieran elects to stay out there, and so ends up being not that close between Kim-Andre Bjorklund and Matthew Lindy, and now Lindy hits the front. There is Leiflander, who we can see on the webcam as well, working at the wheel, and now 7.5 odd seconds back from your race leader. That's a big moment of rear end stepping out on him. Doesn't seem to have scared him though. Maybe that was intended.
I mean, the youngster has definitely, well, how do I praise this correctly? He's kind of scared a few people, but I mean, at the very least, if you're Kenny Zeems' team owner, you're kind of thinking, that's fine. He's in the race lead. I'm fine with scary if it gets wins.
Now the driver takes off to the joker. It's Zach Blanche that ends up now in the middle of Kim-Andre Bjorklund and Rene Wegner. Now 3 will advance, but still waiting for 2 drivers to have taken to the joker, and 2 drivers inside of that delta window. Zach Blanche feels the pressure as well from Rene Wegner as they get ready to cross the line. It's going to be 2 laps to go this time by. Subaru looks up the inside. We saw Blanche make a mistake here on the opening lap. No such drama this time by. A little bit more steady in his Fiesta.
Just got the note from the sim, 2 black flags, the 88 and the 22 already have the black flag, so it's down to just 1 car to not be going home here. It's going to be tight. There's the 20. They took the joker for the lead. Expected
him to come out in front of Matthew Lindy. Didn't expect the margin to be so big. It's 2 full seconds as we get ready to start the final lap of this first LCQ. It's a very nose-high attitude for Kieran Leiflander. Matthew Lindy, in contrast, a little bit more as expected, trying to land a little bit more squat with the car. 1 more mile to go. Stay out of trouble. I've said it many times before today.
And I don't think Bjorklund's spot's going to stand here. But so Blanche right now, he's looking solid. Because remember, Bjorklund has a black flag in the sim. You can't serve that on a race like this. But Wegner just needs to find a way to get to Blanche in the backdrop. Blanche in the mirror is slamming into the wall.
And that's a costly mistake. Remember, we're also expecting black flags on that 22 machine. What's it going to mean when the race results become official? Kieran Leiflander is going to head, though, out of the final corner to win in the first of our LCQs. And still some work to do, but some relief, that's for sure. Watch the left side, watch the timing screen. It will update as they cross the line. The 22 drops back in line, the 88 drops back as well. And so Wegner does end up doing enough.
Just enough with Zach Blanche having a ton of mistakes. Zach Blanche is going to be thinking back to the drawing board and saying, maybe I should buy a bigger drawing board because he hit almost every single wall while trying to draw a plan.
Yeah, they're definitely maximizing the track. We saw that from Leiflander on occasion. Remember, Blanche, Bjorklund, and Istvan Tits all done for the day. Sean Winkler going to be at the front of the second LCQ with Russell Peterson alongside Stead Miller, Robbie Kirtley, Santeri Heiskanen, and then Lindsay Hobbs. At the very back, it's going to be Brendan Raymond as well. 7 enter. The same 3, though, move their way on forward. Hopefully, a few less black flags this time around.
Yeah, that, again, coming down to the argy-barginess that's already been talked about a lot by Race Control. Keep an eye on that launch. 3 advance. Here we go.
Lights will build, and now I think there's going to be some desperation. Will anyone be as confident as Kieran Leiflander was on the start? Pretty equal at the front. Robbie Kirtley's going to look to the outside and try and follow the bright green machine of Russell Peterson down through the penultimate corner, but Sean Winkler holds on. Peterson gets a bit of contact, spat out to the outside, drops to the very back, and so it will be Winkler 1, Miller 2, Heiskanen 3 across the line.
Well, Russell Peterson had enough space on his drawing board to build up a plan. The problem is everybody else decided, I don't like your plan. I'm going to use my own plan. And that's unfortunate to say the very least. He tried to use the arc, just lost a lot of time with everyone using it as a pinball. No surprise, Heiskanen saying, I'm going to get away from these Fiestas right now.
And so it ends up being Stead Miller, Brendan Raymond, and Russell Peterson, the drivers yet to have taken to the Joker. You'll see that update on the left side. Remember, when it all flicks gold, you know the driver has taken their one allotted usage of the Joker. It's a shortcut here. When we go racing at Brands Hatch, it will actually end up being a bit of a penalty. Both Stead Miller and Russell Peterson may now be done for the day. They are watching on from the sidelines, and so 5 cars now left in contention. Only Brendan Raymond has not jokered of the 5 left on track.
And Raymond is an intriguing one. We've kept an eye on him off and on throughout the season. He's had some moments and a halves. I think he's going to need a miracle, because he just took the Joker and he's not even anywhere close to these top 4. For Lindsey Hobbs, though, up the road, I think that might be where Raymond can take a chance, because Hobbs has been up and down so far today. The Fiesta is struggling right now to even keep a straight line in some of the jumps. If Kirtley gets there in the next few laps, or in the next lap and a half more likely, well, door opens up, Raymond can then do something if they slow each other up again.
Let's take a look at the start, because Russell Peterson had confidence heading down into the opening corner. Oh, and then too much confidence in trying to cut back, and it's somewhat self-inflicted, JP, and you can see him trying to find his way back onto track.
Yeah, I can understand the line Peterson was thinking about, though. Try to get the diamond just a touch, just angled it wrong. Then the second group just tried to angle it to the inside. Problem is, he kind of forgot the car was there. Or he was expecting the car to cut the corner. I'm not quite sure. Regardless, it all really started with that initial contact where he needed to get inside for his plan to be executed for the cross-up. He didn't get it. Now he's on the sideline.
Sean Winkler under pressure. 2 laps to go. And as you head towards the donk slide, there is Santeri Heiskanen within half a second as they slide through the dirt. Sean Winkler in VR. Doesn't look as though he's got a handbrake next to him, so maybe instead it's a button on the wheel or something, which kind of interesting. Does look as though he's using paddle shifters as well. Always interesting to see these setups, JP, for these drivers, how they've got it all configured.
I've always wondered that with this car, though, because if in theory you need a handbrake, it requires a lot of precision when it comes to that. With the button, it's basically going 0-100, 0-100, 0-100. Every time you click it, that takes a lot of skill if you have it going to 0-100.
I'll be honest, I've got a handbrake, and I don't know if I'm skilled enough for it not to be just me yoinking on it and it going from 0 to 100. Didn't even think about the fact that there are drivers actually capable of modulating that and, you know, really using it in a different sort of a way. And maybe that explains why I'm not very good at it. But Sean Winkler seemingly holding off the pressure and advances out of LCQ number 2, along with Santeri Heiskanen and Lindsey Hobbs, able to steady the ship and bring the Ford Fiesta into the main event.
Nicely done by Hobbs to be able to keep the buffer, making up for a very rough Fiesta day for a lot of others. But now it's just a matter, get the feature done right. We've seen how carnage-filled today could be, and better yet, here's an interesting thought. Making sure you get the fuel numbers down, because one of the things talked about in RX2, I thought a left foot braking I'll touch upon in a moment.
Here's a look at your race results. Sean Winkler, Santeri Heiskanen, and Lindsey Hobbs end up finishing 1, 2, and 3 and advancing on forward. The rest of the drivers will be watching on as we get ready to go for the main event. Don't go anywhere here on RaceSpotTV. We've got one more race left to go. RX1 center stage for its main event. And then there were 12. It's time to go for the main event here from the Atlanta Motor Speedway in Racecraft Rallycross RX1, powered by Next Level Racing. So glad you can join us on Junior Kanky Party, joined alongside by Justin Prince and JP. We've seen plenty of action to get us to here. And now Jacob Rafos, Evan McFarlane, center stage on our championship favorites. But with Josh Fox back in the mix, I think there's a wild race in the midst.
I think there's going to be a wild race in general here with these drivers coming up here, because remember, Fox has been trying to find long run pace for his setups. Rafos has had that pace, McFarlane the same, but Edmondson has come in out of nowhere. But he was behind them in the pylon. He's jumped them on pace with how he's played this day today so far.
And Edmondson starts alongside Josh Fox on the front row. It will be Jacob Rafos and Evan McFarlane behind on row 2, with Yoni Palaneva and Yuka Pakala, the no-control machines, on the third row of the grid. All those moved forward directly from their heat races. The rest came through the LCQs. Kieran Leiflander, Sean Winkler, Matthew Lindy, Santeri Heiskanen, Rennie Wegner, and Lindsay Hobbs. 12 will enter, 1 will win. And remember, this is a race of 10 laps, double the length, JP, of anything else we've done today.
And it means lots more chances for mistakes, but better yet, a lot of management to consider for the pace. Looks like we're ready.
Just getting the final cars onto the grid, and now the engines will rev as the lights will build. We've got 2 races left to go after this. Championship split by 10 points entering into today, and Atlanta will surely have a tale to tell us. Jacob Rafos gets a great launch as we head off into the opening corner of this race. Long way around for Josh Edmondson. How much room will he give his Nitro Circus Sim Racing teammate? He makes a bit of contact with Evan McFarlane, who's getting a bit bullied as they work over the jump. McFarlane gets tangled up but escapes clearly as no control cars into the wall, and Josh Fox, Jacob Rafos, and Josh Edmondson leading into turn number 1.
You talk about luck for Edmondson. He had someone literally in his windshield at the back end of the car. Most people are not surviving that when there's a car running over your rear windshield. But that's just kind of the luck in the midair where you have no control of that. It's the luck of the draw. McFarlane got the luck of the arrow.
At the end of the opening lap, we'll see who all has jokered, but it should only be Rafos, Lindy, Wegner, Pakala, and then Josh Fox will be the first car yet to have taken the shortcut. Problem for him is as well, you can see he's only about a second or so back from Yuka Pakala in the no control number 92. I think he might be thinking, JP, I can't afford to not joker this lap. Will he decide to pitch it over to the right?
Looks to be very much committed, maybe to go a little bit later here. Maybe see what happens, maybe trust in the process. I think, though, if he closes an error car length of Pakala, he has to take it, because the second he goes side by side into the drifting dog-leg section that you talked about already is the second you lose a ton of ground. I believe Edmondson may have done it because he's jumped up the pylon.
Yes, he did definitely joker, emerged behind Jacob Rafos, but with a margin that does give me a bit of confidence that Fox could end up directly alongside. And now you see the damage to the no control machine. Like, Fox has got to go. There is no ifs or buts about it. And watch him here. He'll open up this corner, work all the way to the left side, and then spear the car off to the right. How close will it be on the Joker merge? There goes Rafos. The speed on the side, though, of Josh Fox, the Williams Esports driver, to the lead. And what confidence as well.
Solid run, solid pace. Someday, maybe if he wins this race, they'll finish the livery, because right now he's sparkling, even though his technical connection kind of wants to do the opposite of sparkle. It wants to go in the mud.
Let's hope that it holds on, because it would be a great story for Fox to return and to hold off this pressure. It does look as though Rafos has got some damage of his own as well, but let's go back to see where the damage to the race for Evan McFarlane ended up happening. You can see there, first some contact with Edmondson, and now what happens over the jump, JP, for the no control machines?
Well, just quite simply, run each other over, too aggressive. One of them bounced off McFarlane's rear windshield, mind you, which kind of doesn't help. That contact there already just got the note from Renee Sodens that he is not happy with what he just seen his teammates do. That triggered 2 of them colliding into each other. What's the first rule of racing, teammates? Don't wreck them.
And we saw a bit of that during VCO Infinity over this past weekend, where the Red Line teammates that ended up finishing 1 and 2 after 24 hours did have a bit of contact in the 13th race that we had. Josh Fox, Jacob Rafos, very much now starting to pull away couple of tenths here and there from Josh Edmondson. Evan McFarlane, 10.5 seconds behind. That is not necessarily within Joker range. Here he comes now. Will be alongside with Edmondson into the braking zone. Will switch it back underneath. Don't think the move is necessarily on, and Edmondson slams the door shut.
Yeah, I don't think it's on whatsoever quite yet. He needs to be a little bit more patient, McFarlane does. Just wait for something more clear-cut. Now, you're going to go devil's advocate and understand why. You see the cars queuing up, but in front, Edmondson is losing a lot of ground. It looks like Edmondson had the short run pace dialed up for a 5-lapper, but right now 6 to 10 seems to be a trouble spot right now for him.
And the dong slide is not a passing opportunity, so as much as McFarlane may think he's quicker, he's going to have to find a different way past. And Edmondson, I'm not implying that there's actually anything going on here, but in many ways, let's not forget, Nitro Circus Sim Racing teammate to Jacob Rafos. He's just giving a bit of buffer to Jacob, who, let's be real, was not looking the most quick and comfortable in qualifying, and sits behind Fox and not really closing the issue. 4 to go. Podium places still up for grabs in this fight. Crazy to think, the day that Kieran Lifelinder's been through, JP, he's still up here in this fight for third.
Despite all his best efforts here, and despite all the efforts to, well, not make the feature and destroy every piece of his race car and make no friends while doing so, I'm still a little bit surprised when Pace bounced back. He's still got significant rear damage, similar to that of Fox up front, so it's not necessarily that I'm concerned. It's the second he gets within a few car lanes, we might see door-to-door contact again.
I think the thing is that damage is coming from the landing maybe here. You can see how the Subarus in particular have been landing a little bit more rear wheels first, and then, I'm not going to say gently, touching down on the front tires, but that's just a little bit of it. And again, you control the attitude of the car with the brake and throttle inputs, and so it's one of those things where you have to sort of remember that when you're in the air, you have to still control the car. You're not completely falling at the whims of gravity. 2 to go next time by. Jacob Rafos is trying, but you can see him slip off the track. He's not got the speed to match Josh Fox.
Yeah, I think right now he's just slipping up a little bit. Right now, Fox might have just found what he's been trying to find for a while. Long run pace for the end of the run in the Subaru. We've talked about the car trend. That's why there's a lot of Subarus up towards the front. Those trends continued, and better yet, that setup that Fox has been trying to tinker with seems to have finally seen results.
Now,
and McFarlane's got a problem.
Yeah, someone wandered straight off, and that was Evan McFarlane. I think there may have just been a slight unloading of the car through the potential anti-cut curbs. We'll come back around to see the white flag. This is what happened.
Kind of curious, not sure what. It looked fun.
Slow down.
Did he? Had to been.
Yeah,
if he got more than half the car to the curb, that would be a slowdown, yeah.
It would have been when he, this angle will maybe give us a bit more of it, but as you cut here,
yes, there it is.
It was very, very marginal. It's a very fine line to run. White flag in hand though, JP. 1 more mile to go. Josh Fox ready to grab another Racecraft RX win.
At the very least, Josh Fox has been stuck in a box trying to find the speed to take him outside said box and see him prance like a fox to victory lane. I think he's found what he's been trying to speak about for the past few weeks whenever he's been here. Get the pace for the end of the races down. He's found the pace. In fact, if he gets this the rest of the way, it gets interesting the rest of the year.
And for Josh Fox, pole position, victory in Heat 1, and finally back on top in Racecraft RX1. It's Williams' own that wins at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, 1.3 seconds clear of Jacob Rafos, and even further to those behind. It's some well-earned donuts, and Jacob Rafos will join in celebration. JP, Atlanta is great. When they're not crashing, there's some great racing.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what was touched upon by Trevor Teal. He likes the lawn version because it gives the chance to separate the difference in those in Racecraft and those who have the short run pace. I think they just found a secret shop, though. That's why they're celebrating more than anything.
We'll let them have their fun, and hopefully they'll come and chat with us as well, and we can get some post-race reactions. 2 rounds to go after this. It's a trip to Brands Hatch in a week's time, and then over to Wine Country in 2 weeks to close out the season. It is Williams and Josh Fox on top, though. Nitro Circus Sim Racing second and third, with Jacob Rafoss in front of Josh Edmondson, who holds off Kieran Leiflander for the final step on the podium. Evan McFarlane will be slightly frustrated in fifth, but ultimately did show his speed, just got slightly caught out on the start, and finishes in front of his KES Industries teammate Matthew Lindy. No Control 7th and 8th, with Heiskanen in front of Pakala, and then Sean Winkler, Rene Wegner, the rest of the top 10. Final finisher is Yoni Palaneva, while Lindsay Hobbs unfortunately doesn't get very far and ends up as a DNF on the day. So as we wait for a couple of the drivers to come and chat with us, JP, let's go and talk a little bit more about what lies ahead. I've talked about the heavy braking zone into turn number 1 at Brands Hatch. One thing that we don't often talk too much about until we actually go racing there is when you get to the end of the lap, the Joker lap, it's actually a little bit shorter. Because it's dirt though and it's bumpy, it takes you longer, and it's a bit of a penalty to work your way through.
And I think that's going to be a balancing act in that discussion point then on when you use it, because it's similar to that of what we've seen the start of the season when we had the longer time loss Jokers, so to speak. But Brands Hatch, like I was touching upon, the more I hear with drivers discuss, the more I see even the visuals of it, the more I keep saying to myself, this is going to be an alleyway of attrition.
I like that. Alleyway of attrition. Does sound quite British at the end of the day as well, so I think it does fit. That is all to come, though. Don't forget, here live on RaceSpotTV, same time, same place. We'll be back from Brands Hatch in 7 days' time. Let's go down, though, and chat with your race winner, Josh Fox, back in victory lane. And, well, Josh, that was in style as well. Fast in qualifying by almost half a second. Quick in your heat, calm, cool, collected. And then never really missed a beat in the main event itself. Talk us through Atlanta and your seeming comfort level with this track.
Yeah, thanks. Felt pretty good coming into this one. Definitely one of my favorite tracks for sure. And went to work a little bit on some setup stuff after the first 2 rounds, and I think we found a little bit extra there, and yeah, car just worked super well no matter what the track was, fresh, worn, anytime. It was just super good, and really rolling well, so hopefully it means good stuff for the final rounds.
How do we get you a Williams Esports livery, by the way, Josh? Because this weekend we had VCO Infinity. You know, there were 5, effectively 7 cars, and we had the new Williams Esports livery on all of them. Tell me what I need to message to Javi to get you this livery.
Well, tell them how good it would look winning races and running up front and just about podium every time we show up. So if they want that car around more often in the spotlight, then this is the place to do it.
There you go. We've made your case, and we'll forward that clip and the win as well, of course, over to Javi. Josh, congratulations on this win. Can't wait to see you in a week's time over at Brands Hatch.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Josh Fox victorious, and we'll head down to the second step of the podium where Jacob Rafoss standing by with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. Jacob, talk about today in terms of this floor of the racetrack. How was it compared to some of your races today, and what we've seen around this racetrack in terms of trickiness when it comes to the longer circuit?
I mean, yeah, this track is one of my weaker ones for sure. I had some at the end there, but had some pace at the end there on Warren, but fresh, I got worse from there. It's probably my least train track too. So, but I mean, I can't say anything about a P2. So I'm pretty happy with my results.
I was gonna say though, couple races to go on the season now, including today. What's kind of going to the mind knowing we've seen a lot of comers and goers behind you in the standings? What's kind of going to the mind to try and build the buffer for the penultimate race?
I mean, for sure, we gotta get the champion. You gotta secure the championship and do some good results, but I also want to win every race.
So what's it going to take to win at Brands Hatch?
I mean, it's going to be hard. I know for sure you got Evan and Josh Fox and Kieran also very fast there, so got to do some work there.
Well, congratulations on the podium once again today.
Thank you. I'd like to give a shout out to Sim Magic, Sim Racing Guys, and Nitro Circus Sim Racing, and Sim Magic for giving me this handbrake. It was ripped today.
Thank you very much for the time once again.
Next up, we'll step to the third step of the podium. We'll be joined by Josh Edmondson. Josh, talk us through that race from your perspective, able to work your way into a podium spot at the end, but a chaotic start, I think, to say the very least.
Oh yeah, that was a crazy race. I gave myself wheel damage in the donk slide on the second lap, or first lap, one of those two, and I was struggling to turn with that, but was able to keep it up front ahead of Evan when he came out of the Joker. He actually kind of caught me off guard. I unintentionally blocked him there, but it was good. It kept me in front of him, and then it was just a battle from there. I think he might have got a slowdown or clipped a curb or something, but yeah, it was a good battle. I just didn't have anything for the front two. They were ripping.
Let's talk about Brands Hatch next week. It's the heaviest braking zone of any corner in IRX. We go from, almost 200-something kilometers an hour down into first gear. How are you feeling about the trip to Brands Hatch? It's an interesting RX layout, isn't it?
It is. I like that track, actually. I mean, the turn one is rough in that area with starts and how all that goes. But as soon as it funnels out of that section, it gets a lot better, and the racing's good there, I think. And I enjoy driving the track, so I'll be looking forward to that one for sure.
And then Sonoma a week after that to close out the season. What a quick campaign it's been. And Josh, before we let you go, we were kind of teasing a little bit of what else is to come in the summer for Racecraft. Not all action on the four-wheel drive rallycross cars. There's some more to come this summer on RaceSpotTV, isn't there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to the Pro 2 Championship. We'll start in June, and we'll have at least 6 rounds of that series too, similar to this, where there's a fixed class and an open class. And it's going to be really competitive, just like this stuff is. It's pretty much the Pro Series for this summer, since there isn't one. But it's also in the Pro 2 truck, which is a lot of people's favorite truck to drive. It takes a lot more skill than the Pro 4, and it produces really good racing. So, yeah, really looking forward to that one.
I know it's your favorite. Can't wait to see how that all plays out here live on RaceSpotTV. Josh, always great to have you in the broadcast booth. Congratulations on the podium. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. And shout out you guys doing the broadcast. Excited to go back and watch this one. And shout out everybody on the team. Nitro Circus Sim Racing, got Teal and Jacob did really good today. Good job to those guys. And then everybody else, Racecraft, Penguin RC, Apex Gaming PCs, and Pimax VR.
And that wraps up our post-race coverage. Always great to be able to catch up with the drivers. And JP, an interesting affair here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. I've got to say, it is genuinely my favorite rallycross track to commentate on. It just brings some great racing, and if this was anything to go off, I think the RX1 Championship has never been this interesting. Jacob Rafossa's got a real rival in the form of Evan McFarlane.
I think so, especially when it comes to possibly over the next year, you can argue. Not just for the rest of the season for your Racecraft, but for Brands Hatch, it gets right back to the thought process of it's going to take a lot of precision, I think, based on the braking marks, but based on the fact it's the Joker game format for the track. That might change up the mid-table, depending on what happens next week.
And that's, of course, a very short schedule, but one that means the drivers cannot afford to put a foot wrong. It makes it intriguing. It keeps them on their toes. It keeps us excited as well. But it means it's time for us to bid you farewell with another round of Racecraft Rallycross powered by Next Level Racing in the books. So many great moments as well, intermingled with a couple of moments of chaos, a couple of flips as well, but ultimately worthy winners and championship stakes being drawn even higher. For the team behind the scenes, for Justin Prince alongside myself, Arjuna Kenkipati, thank you so much for your company. Can't wait for you to join us across the pond from Brands Hatch for the penultimate round in our championship.